sound of heavy rain, punctuated by sharp rhythmic thunderclaps. A quick jarring cut to a close-up of a woman, Ruthie, her face etched with a mix of exhaustion and steely determination, holding a cup of coffee. Ruthie, VO. So this ain't your average Tuesday. Rain was coming down like a fire hose and the whole damn neighborhood was under siege. Not a single soul was out there, just me and this Karen woman. You know, the kind that thinks the world revolves around her perfectly manicured lawn. Quick cuts, a flooded street, Karen's meticulously landscaped yard, Ruthie's determined face as she approaches Karen's house. Ruthie, VO. I'd been battling her for months over this stupid land dispute, this little plot of land. My family had owned it for generations. She'd been trying to swallow it up, claiming some ancient fabricated right. And Karen? She was acting like a spoiled brat who'd just lost her favorite doll. A shot of Karen looking smug and self-assured, standing in the middle of her yard. Ruthie, VO. This is mine, she'd practically hissed. You're just jealous. Jealous? I was practically drowning in the flood of her lies, sound of shattering glass interspersed with the frantic rhythm of pounding on a door. Ruthie, VO. Then the storm hit. Not just the weather, the real storm. She'd hired some shady characters and, well, let's just say they weren't afraid to use a little persuasion. My garden shed was trashed. My prized hydrangeas were ripped out by the roots. This wasn't about land anymore. This was about revenge. Quick cuts. Ruthie examining the damage, police cars pulling up, the lawyer's stern face. A dramatic close-up on a legal document. Ruthie, VO. I had to fight. I had to fight for my family's legacy, for the history etched into this very soil. I hired the best lawyer in town, Ruthie, a woman tougher than a hickory tree, and we went to court. A montage of courtroom scenes, tense moments, Ruthie presenting evidence, the judge's serious expression. The camera focuses on Karen's face, shifting from smugness to terror. Ruthie, VO. The courtroom was packed. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. The evidence was overwhelming. Not just about the land, but about the lies. The intimidation, the sheer audacity of it all. A final shot of the judge's gavel striking, followed by a dramatic pause. A close-up of Karen, visibly shaken and defeated. Ruthie, VO. Silence. Dead silence. The judge's verdict. She lost. Every single claim. The land was mine again. But not just that. She was ordered to pay for the damage, and for the stress she put me through. A quick, triumphant shot of Ruthie. A small smile playing on her lips as she walks away from the courtroom. Ruthie, VO. The rain finally stopped. The sun peeked through the clouds, and for the first time, in months I felt a sense of peace. A sense of justice. It wasn't just about the land, it was about standing up to someone who thought they were above the law. About reminding everyone that even in the face of a storm, truth and justice can prevail. Final shot. Ruthie sipping, her coffee, a quiet smile on her face as she looks out at her now repaired garden. Ruthie, VO. So yeah, that was my Tuesday. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got a whole lot of hydrangeas to replant. And maybe a few things to celebrate. What do you think, folks? Leave a comment below. I'm dying to hear your thoughts. Karen's face twisted with a mix of fury and disbelief as the police officers pulled her out of the car. Her designer shoes squeaked on the wet pavement, mascara running down her cheeks. She kept shrieking about her rights, about her status. Her husband was on the university board, she claimed. But Morgan, the cop, just shook his head, eyes cold and unyielding. Ma'am, you're under arrest for trespassing, disorderly conduct, and littering, he said firmly, his voice cutting through the rain. Karen's mouth opened as if she wanted to argue, but no words came out. Instead, she fumbled with her purse, trying to find her phone or maybe her lawyer, but all she managed was a desperate, mascara-streaked glare. Meanwhile, the crowd around us was growing, dozens of soaked students filming, whispering, and murmuring. Some were snapping pictures, others just staring in shock. I could feel my heartbeat pounding like a drum in my chest. This wasn't just about a parking spot anymore. It was about her ego, her entitlement, and now, her downfall. Suddenly, her engine roared to life. Karen jabbed the gas pedal, and in a move so reckless, so insane, she lurched forward. The car jerked, just enough to make Morgan stumble back. The crowd gasped. Phones were recording everything. The moment she tried to run, the chaos that followed. The radio crackled. A call for backup. 2 squad cars screeched onto the scene, flashing blue and red. They pulled up fast, their sirens blaring through the storm. A cop knocked on Karen's window. Again, voice calm but commanding. "Ma'am, step out of the vehicle with your hands where we can see them." Her eyes darted, hesitation flickering across her face. For a second, I thought she might refuse. But then she cracked open the door, shrieking about her shoes. "Valentino's!" she yelled. Like that mattered. Her mascara was running down her cheeks. As she fumbled with her purse trying to pull out her ID, the officer wasn't buying it. "License and registration, ma'am, now." Karen's hands trembled. Her voice wavered. You can't do this. I'm on official business. I don't need a permit." The cop's expression stayed flat. "Ma'am, you're being cited for unauthorized parking, littering, and failing to comply, and—" He paused, voice serious. "You're under arrest for trespassing and disorderly conduct." Her jaw dropped. "This is outrageous. My lawyer—" The officer cut her off. "Ma'am, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." She started sobbing openly now, mascara streaks running down her face. Her arms crossed tight. She yelled, "You're all just harassing me. I'll sue every one of you." But it was too late. The cuffs clicked around her wrists. The crowd erupted into cheers. Some clapped. Others just stared in stunned silence. Phones kept recording every second as she was hauled into the back of the cruiser, still protesting, still crying. The tow truck arrived moments later, hooking up her precious Mercedes. She was still yelling, but her voice was fading into a distant, trembling wail. "You'll all pay for this. You'll regret crossing me." And just like that, she was gone. The rain kept pouring, the storm still raging. But something inside me felt different. It was like watching a giant fall, unexpected, sudden, and undeniable. Justice, I guess, sometimes hits hardest when you least expect it. The police drove off, leaving Karen in tears, and her car silent on the soaked street. The crowd around us was still buzzing, phones still recording, some cheering, others stunned into silence. But I knew this wasn't over. Not really. Minutes later, the courthouse doors swung open. Karen, soaked and trembling, staggered out, flanked by officers. Her face was pale, her makeup a mess. She looked around desperately, eyes darting, trying to find a way out. But the crowd's gaze was fixed on her, frozen, waiting. Then something unexpected happened. Her phone buzzed loudly in her hand. She looked down, her eyes narrowing in disbelief. It was a notification, an alert from her own social media account. Her latest post, a boast about her power and influence, was being flooded with comments. But that wasn't all. A live video had started streaming. Someone had captured her entire meltdown. The threats, the reckless attempt to flee, her sobs. And now, it was going viral. The crowd gasped as the video played on a nearby screen. Her pride, her arrogance, everything she'd tried to hide, laid bare. People started whispering, then shouting, then clapping. Not for her, but for the justice that had unfolded. Then came the twist. As she tried to disappear into the crowd, a sharp voice cut through the chaos. It was the judge stepping out from the courthouse, holding a paper in hand. "Ms. Karen," he called, voice booming through the rain. "You are hereby ordered to surrender your license, your property, and face a hefty fine for contempt of court and destruction of property, and—" he paused, eyes narrowing, "for perjury and obstruction of justice. You lied under oath, didn't you?" The crowd's murmurs turned into gasps. Karen's face twisted in horror. Her hands clutched her purse tightly as she stammered, trying to deny it. But the evidence was staring her in the face. Her own words, her own lies, all caught on camera. And then, the most shocking part, her phone buzzed again. This time, a message from a number she didn't recognize. She hesitated, then looked closer. It was a video, a secret recording from her own home. Her husband caught on tape, admitting he'd been aware of her scheme all along, her land grab, her lies, her threats. And he wasn't just a bystander. He'd turned her in. Her world shattered in an instant. The crowd erupted into applause. The judge read out her charges, fines, court dates, the loss of her license, and her face, pale and trembling, was finally broken. She tried to scream, to deny everything, but the words died in her throat. She was being dragged away, her heels clicking on the wet pavement, her entire world crumbling. And as she disappeared into the courthouse, I realized something profound. Justice isn't always served in the courtroom. Sometimes, it comes crashing, down in a storm in the form of truth, of secrets revealed, of karma catching up. The rain kept pouring. The storm had passed, but the lesson was clear. No one is above the law, and no one escapes their actions forever. And I walked away, knowing I'd witnessed something I'd never forget, a reminder that sometimes the universe has its own way of balancing the scales, even in the fiercest rain.